Charlotte Flair's biggest moment on the grandest stage wasn't a career highlight for her, it was something she actually despises. And her reason why? It's not what you'd expect. Most fans assume it's jealousy, ego, or some behind-the-scenes drama, but the truth is far more nuanced and professional. Today, we're diving into the real story behind why Charlotte Flair hates her WrestleMania 35 main event and what that says about her place in WWE history. Let's get one thing clear right away. Charlotte Flair is one of the most decorated women in WWE history. Her resume speaks for itself: multiple-time women's champion, main event talent, Hall of Fame trajectory. Yet despite all that, there's always been a wall between her and the WWE audience. Some fans think she was handed everything, some think she's overpushed, others just find it hard to connect with her. And that disconnect was never more clear than in 2019 when WWE placed her in the main event of WrestleMania 35. That triple threat match between Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Ronda Rousey was supposed to be a historic celebration. The first time women headlined WrestleMania, a cultural milestone, a defining moment. But 5 years later, Charlotte went on record saying she hated that match. Not because of personal beef, not because she didn't win, but because the match finish made her feel invisible in her own legacy-defining moment. She made these comments during an appearance on the Games with Names podcast, and they caught fire fast. In her own words, Charlotte said, "We would not have main event WrestleMania without Ronda Rousey. Hands down, Ronda brought an outside legitimacy that we didn't have. I'm thankful for that, but I hated our Mania match." That's a bold statement coming from someone who was part of the match. The reason? The finish. If you remember that match, Becky Lynch rolled up Ronda Rousey and scored a clean pinfall to become the dual champion. But Ronda's shoulders weren't completely down on the mat. It looked sloppy. Fans in the arena were confused. Viewers at home questioned whether it was a botch. It wasn't. That was the actual finish. But it was poorly executed. And for Charlotte, that one small moment, those final 10 seconds, soured the entire match. She wasn't pinned. She didn't tap out. She didn't even factor into the finish. And that, in her mind, made her feel completely irrelevant on the biggest night of her career. But to fully understand her frustration, we have to look at how this match came together. Originally, WWE wanted Becky Lynch vs. Ronda Rousey as a singles match. That was the plan. The two had major online beef. They were building real momentum. Becky had caught fire with the fans. She was coming off the SummerSlam heel turn that backfired completely and turned her into a massive babyface. Then there was the iconic Bloody Becky image after the Nia Jax punch. Fans were ready. WWE had lightning in a bottle. But Vince McMahon had other ideas. He felt Charlotte Flair needed to be part of the match. WWE has always seen Charlotte as the elite face of the women's division. And to Vince, a historic first-ever women's WrestleMania main event needed Charlotte. So, she was inserted into the match, turning it into a triple threat. This decision immediately sparked backlash from fans, who saw it as WWE playing favorites and undermining Becky's moment. Still, Charlotte did her job. She worked the story, she cut the promos, she took the bumps, and she did everything she could to elevate the match. But in hindsight, even she knows that her presence in that match wasn't necessary. She didn't ask to be added, she was told to be there. That context makes her recent comments even more telling. She wasn't bitter about being in the match. She was frustrated that when the moment came, the execution didn't reflect the significance. Becky won, Ronda took the fall, and Charlotte was an afterthought. That's not just a personal slight, that's a missed opportunity to truly make history the right way. And look, Charlotte is no stranger to criticism. Every time she wins a title, there's backlash. Every time she returns from a break and jumps into a championship storyline, fans complain. And yet, WWE keeps going back to her. Why? Because she's consistent, she's polished, she delivers in big matches, but that doesn't mean she's the fan favorite. And WrestleMania 35 was the perfect storm where the fans made it clear Becky was the one they wanted. After that night, Becky Lynch exploded in popularity. She became the man, held the titles, and carried WWE's women's division for the next year. Meanwhile, Charlotte continued to bounce between roles, returning for short stints, picking up more titles, but never quite reclaiming the fan love. Now, with all that in mind, it's interesting that Charlotte would be this candid publicly. Her acknowledgement of Ronda's value to the match shows humility. She admitted that Ronda brought the legitimacy, the crossover appeal, the media attention, and she wasn't wrong. Ronda Rousey wasn't a perfect wrestler, but she brought new eyes to WWE. She gave the women's division a serious boost. Charlotte recognized that, and she still hated the match. Why? Because despite all the effort, despite all the history, despite being part of the main event, she walked out of that match feeling like a footnote. That's not how you want your biggest moment to feel. And the backlash towards Charlotte wasn't just during that feud. Rewind to SummerSlam 2018, Charlotte vs. Becky Lynch. WWE tried to make Becky the heel. The fans rejected that instantly. They rallied behind Becky. The cheers were thunderous. And Charlotte, who was supposed to be the babyface, got booed out of the building. That was the turning point. WWE had no choice but to pivot and let Becky run wild. But even then, Charlotte kept getting top billing. She won titles. She beat Asuka at WrestleMania 34 in a shocking decision that killed Asuka's undefeated streak. The perception of favoritism never faded. So when WrestleMania 35 came, it felt like WWE was forcing her into a moment that didn't belong to her. The fans knew it. Charlotte probably knew it. And when the final bell rang, the history books said Charlotte Flair was part of the first women's main event, but her actual impact on the match was minimal. That disconnect between what WWE wants and what fans want continues today. Charlotte is currently out with an injury, but when she returns, expect another major push. That's the cycle. She returns, gets a title match, maybe even wins, and the fans push back again. It's predictable, but WWE doesn't care. They see her as a guaranteed main event player. But here's what's changed. Charlotte Flair is starting to reflect more publicly. She's talking about her past in honest terms. She's acknowledging what worked and what didn't. And maybe that's the start of something new. Maybe when she returns next time, she doesn't just go after another title. Maybe she goes after a story that gives her the closure she didn't get at WrestleMania 35. And speaking of the current landscape in WWE's women's division, there's another name making waves right now, Tiffany Stratton. She's got the look, the athleticism, and the kind of momentum that could easily carry her to the top. At Evolution 2, Tiffany is expected to be a major player. She's been paired up in segments with Trish Stratus, and there's real buzz about her getting the kind of rub Charlotte used to get from legends. Fans are responding to Tiffany in a way that's organic. She's flashy, confident, and has found her voice. But the key difference? WWE isn't forcing her down the audience's throat just yet, and that's why it's working. Her Queen of the Ring performance was a statement. Her character has evolved, and WWE seems to be positioning her for a huge breakout by the end of the year. If she keeps this momentum, don't be surprised if Tiffany Stratton headlines a major show soon, maybe even WrestleMania. In a way, Tiffany Stratton could be WWE's opportunity to avoid past mistakes. Don't overexpose her. Don't rush her. Let her earn the spotlight. Because if there's one thing Charlotte Flair's WrestleMania 35 story has taught us, it's that even the biggest moment can feel hollow if the story isn't right. So where does Charlotte go from here? Will she ever get another shot at a WrestleMania main event? Will WWE finally craft a story that gives her a more satisfying chapter? Or will her legacy forever be tied to a moment she couldn't enjoy? Time will tell. But one thing is certain, Charlotte Flair's honesty about that match has changed the way fans look at it. What was once a celebration now feels like a cautionary tale. A reminder that even history-making moments can come with regrets, and that even the Queen doesn't always feel like royalty.